Steve Harvey, a man whose laughter once filled arenas and living rooms, whose smile could light up the darkest stage, whose voice carried both humor and wisdom. And yet, at 68, beneath the bright suits and the big mustache, lies a story that few have seen. A tragedy so quietly human that it almost hurts to imagine. He stands backstage, adjusting his tie, the microphone in his hand like a lifeline, and for a moment, he feels the weight of every joke he's told. Every moment he's made, others laugh. Every expectation he's carried since he first stepped into the spotlight. "You ready, Steve?" a producer asks. He smiles, that signature grin, eyes twinkling, yet behind it is the shadow of exhaustion. "Always," he says, though his voice is softer than usual. He thinks about the long road, the comedy clubs, the near failures, the nights he slept in cars because the dream didn't yet pay for hotels, the early mornings wondering if anyone would ever notice him. He remembers the young man with a dream, shaking hands with strangers in Chicago, carrying hope in his pockets like fragile coins, and he smiles at how far he's come. Yet even now, standing in front of the massive crowd that chants his name, there's a heaviness he can't shake. Fame has its price, money has its price, laughter has its price. And Steve has paid more than most know. In his dressing room later, alone, he gazes at his reflection in the mirror. The years are written there, the creases of worry, the quiet loneliness hidden behind the laughter, the stories of heartbreak tucked between smiles. "I used to think laughter was enough," he whispers to himself, "that if I could make the world laugh, maybe I could forget my own pain." But the pain hasn't gone. It's only changed shape. It lurks behind the punchlines, hides in the applause, waits for the curtain to fall. Yet even with all that, Steve Harvey keeps going, because he knows what he carries is bigger than him. He remembers the countless people who told him he inspired them, saved them from despair with a single joke, a single story, a single heartfelt moment on stage. And so, he keeps walking toward the spotlight, each step heavy yet determined. There are nights when he nearly falters, when the weight of expectation almost crushes him, when he looks at the camera and says, "Am I enough?" And yet, somehow, he always is enough. He finds solace in the craft itself, in the timing of a pause, in the rhythm of a story, in the magic of making someone feel a little less alone. "Comedy saved me," he tells a friend once, voice low, eyes misty. "It saved me more than once." And it's true, because on stage, he can be larger than life. He can hide the cracks. He can transform sorrow into laughter. But off stage, the cracks show. He recalls the nights alone in hotels, staring at the ceiling, wondering if all the effort was worth it, if the legacy he fought so hard to build would ever feel complete. He remembers his family, the moments he missed, the words left unsaid, the laughter that never made it home. "I just want to leave something behind," he murmurs, fingers tracing the microphone like it's a compass. Something real, something that matters. And then, as he steps out, the audience erupts, the bright lights hit his face, and the laughter begins. Steve Harvey smiles, really smiles, letting the energy carry him, letting the joy of others fill the cracks a little, letting it remind him why he's still here. He begins to speak, voice strong yet vulnerable, weaving stories of hope and struggle, of triumph and heartbreak. And as the night unfolds, he remembers something crucial. The tragedy isn't in the hardships endured. It's in forgetting to keep moving forward, in forgetting the power of a single voice to touch 1,000 hearts. And in that truth, Steve Harvey finds a strange, quiet strength. A reminder that even broken souls can still shine. And as the crowd roars, as the camera pans over faces lifted in joy and awe, he leans slightly toward the microphone and whispers, "If this story moves you, if this moment reaches you, honor it, honor me, by subscribing, by keeping this light alive, by believing that even the heaviest heart can inspire the world." Steve Harvey sits alone in his study later that night, the soft glow of a single lamp casting shadows across the walls, the echoes of the audience still ringing in his ears, and he thinks about the years, the wins, the losses, the moments he laughed so hard he cried, the nights he cried so quietly no one heard. "It's funny," he whispers to the empty room, "how the world thinks the man who makes them laugh has it all figured out, when half the time I'm just figuring myself out." He leans back, hands folded, eyes closed, remembering the early days, driving through empty streets, gigs that barely paid for gas, a heart full of hope, and a pocket full of dreams, believing that persistence would eventually meet purpose. And it did, but not without leaving scars. At 68, he feels the weight of time, not as regret, but as a reminder of how far he's come. He recalls moments he wishes he could relive, words he wishes he'd said, hugs he missed. But he also feels the warmth of lessons learned, of lives touched, of laughter shared when the world felt cold. "If I could tell that young man anything," he murmurs, "it would be, keep going, even when it hurts, even when it feels impossible, because your story will matter in ways you cannot yet see." He picks up an old notebook filled with sketches of ideas, half-written jokes and reflections, and begins to write again. Each word, each line, a testament to resilience, to humor born from pain, to the alchemy of turning tragedy into inspiration. He writes about the nights he almost quit, the time the spotlight felt heavier than he could bear, and the people who believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. "Those moments," he says aloud, "are what made me who I am. Not the fame, not the awards, not the money. The struggle is the teacher." He strums a small keyboard by the corner of the room, humming softly, allowing the music to carry emotions that words cannot. It's quiet, intimate, and for the first time in a long while, he feels a sense of peace. Yet he knows there is more work to do, more stories to tell, more laughter to give. The world still needs him, not just as a comedian, but as a storyteller, as a man who has walked through darkness and emerged stronger, as a voice for anyone who has felt unseen or unheard. He remembers mentoring young comedians, offering guidance not just on timing and delivery, but on perseverance, integrity, and heart. "You have to be real," he tells them, "because the world can sense a fake heart a mile away. Be brave enough to show yours." And in those moments, he sees his legacy not in trophies or shows, but in the courage he inspires in others. Later, he sits by the window, city lights shimmering, and reflects on aging. "Growing older isn't about slowing down," he whispers. "It's about understanding what truly matters. It's about leaving something meaningful behind." He smiles, thinking about the countless viewers who have grown with him, laughed with him, cried with him, and learned from his life lessons, and he feels gratitude deeper than words. Suddenly, a knock at the door brings him back to the present. His assistant hands him a letter, a note from a fan sharing how his words changed their life, lifted them in moments of despair. Steve's eyes fill with tears as he reads, a reminder that all the heartbreak, all the struggles, all the late nights, all the early mornings, they were never in vain. He looks directly into the camera, as if speaking to each viewer individually, and says softly, "If you take one thing away from my story, let it be this. No matter the tragedies you face, no matter the heartbreak, you have the power to rise, to inspire, to make a difference. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And if my story has moved you even a little, honor it. Honor this journey by subscribing, keeping the laughter alive, and carrying the light forward." Outside, the night hums with possibility, the world unaware of the quiet battles won, the inner demons faced, and the courage summoned. Steve Harvey stands tall, a man whose tragedy is real, whose struggle is human, but whose legacy is beyond heartbreaking. It is inspiring, luminous, and eternal. And as the first hint of dawn touches the horizon, he smiles again, knowing the story is not finished, that the journey continues, and that his light, like the laughter he gives, will reach further than he can ever imagine. Steve Harvey sits on the edge of the stage after the show, guitar of words resting in his hands, the laughter of the crowd still echoing softly in his ears. He smiles, remembering every struggle, every failure, every late night that almost broke him, and he knows now that those moments were never wasted. They shaped him. They gave meaning to every joke, every story, every smile he shared. "If I've learned anything," he whispers, "it's that the heart is stronger than we ever believe, and our light can reach further than we imagine." He looks into the camera, eyes full of warmth, and says, "To anyone out there facing hardships, hold on, keep laughing, keep dreaming, keep loving. Your story matters, and your light can inspire the world." He pauses, takes a slow breath, and smiles. "If my journey touched you tonight, honor it. Honor the struggle and the triumph by subscribing, sharing this story, and keeping hope alive." The lights dim slowly, the stage quiets, and Steve Harvey stands tall, a man who has faced tragedy, embraced resilience, and continues to shine. His journey is far from over, but tonight he knows one thing for certain. Every heartbreak can become a lesson, and every lesson can become a legacy. Thank you for watching, and never stop believing in your own story.